email.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. It is May 30th, 2013, 10 o'clock, and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's do a roll call of who is present.
Commissioner Wagner?
I'm here.
Commissioner Stacy?
Here.
Commissioner Zeller?
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as outlined.
Second.
And we'll sign the journal. Let's do a vote on that, please.
Commissioner Zeller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes. Okay, old business. We have Jill here for old business, at least one thing. Would you like to talk to us about the block grants and
Sure.
where we're at?
Yep.
Or the, I guess the two extra proposals, the neighborhood revitalization and the critical infrastructure.
I brought a few things with me just to share
Well,
with
you're
you.
prepared this time, aren't you?
Oh, I have a handout for you also.
I believe what we're really talking about is the admin fees for
Yes.
those two.
Yep, and as you'll see on this handout that is coming around to you, oops. For fiscal year 13, the grant application total for 3 grants is $714,000 for each of those 3. Proposed admin and fair housing for those 3 grants, $67,000, which is 9% of the total of all 3 grants overall. The state guideline of allowable costs, if you combine all of those costs, you're allowed to request 72.8. The estimated admin breakdown for those 3 grants, and keep in mind, this is estimated because there are so many unknowns before you get into the grant with the environmental reviews. You don't know what level you're going to have to do on the review at this stage in the game. After reviewing the project further and once all the surveys and everything relating to that project is complete, then you would have a better idea of what type of review you're doing, but there are different levels. So the environmental reviews, there will be, at this point, from a quick view of them, it looks like because of 7 projects, there should be at least 7 environmental reviews. And the advertising, I have estimated around 10,000. One grant year, which is just closed, is the fiscal year 2010. We spent over $1,200 on just 2 projects. Those were smaller dollar figure projects. So the advertising for all 7 could be a little under that 10, but that is just an estimate. It could be greater. It just depends on your bids, how they come in, if we have, how many times we have to advertise and all of that. It all depends on a lot of different factors. Supplies, fair housing. The fair housing consists of your tent rental, the tent rental for the county fair. That's all paid out of fair housing. And we use that to offer fair housing education and promotional items and all of that, which those of you, I don't know how familiar you other 2 commissioners are with the fair tent, but we do provide a lot of information regarding fair housing on the table so that we can use that as an expense in the fair housing line. And we pay for the whole tent out of that line. Along with the tent rental is the education, which a portion of that is contracted to WSOS typically. Promotional items. We also have to maintain a fair housing phone line, and so we have a monthly phone bill that we need to pay out of that fair housing line. And so those are all some of the things. Another piece that's a fair housing, it's related to fair housing, it comes out of admin, is the analysis of impediments. We have to do, and I didn't bring a copy of it with me, if at any time I invite you to come over and I will show you the grant files and go through them so that you can see all the pieces and parts to all of these grants. I would be more than happy to do that for you. It's just to transport them. This is just a couple small segments of the grants. And I just wanted to bring them so that you could look through them if you'd like to and see all of the things that it entails for just one project. But so, excuse me, then there's also training. The $1,000 for training is probably kind of low, but I don't think it would go over that. There's one required training because our grant administration capacity is under a 3-year. We have under 3 years of experience now that I am in as the grants administrator. We are required to attend the annual training that they do, whether it be for CDBG or CHIP. So in order to administrate, we have to attend that. So that is why that's listed there. And that may come out of that and be paid all by, through regional planning. It all depends on how everything plays out in the end. And I know that has happened before where there wasn't enough money remaining in the fair housing. We had to attend a training so regional planning can pick up that portion that's not covered under that piece of the grant when it comes to that. So at this point, what I'm estimating as the total for the grant for 3 years for all 3 grants, for 3 grants for the 2-year time period, if they're all awarded, is $89,400. I'm not asking for that amount. That's what I'm estimating to be our cost involved. If everything plays out as I think it might, but we're only asking for $67,000, and it's fairly typical that the state allows a certain guideline. They allow you to spend a certain amount in admin. We don't ask for that full amount in admin. You can see by the years below, I have listed previous years because one of you had asked me about how this compares. 2010, the admin and fair housing total was $19,000. 2011, and these are fiscal years, these aren't the actual calendar years. 2011 it was $18,300. 2012 it was $17,768, and then this year we're proposing the $17,000 for a block grant portion because even though we are applying for 2 additional grants, that's why we're asking for the 30 in the one and the 20 in the other, so that we can help reduce the cost to block grants. So because the funding is $114 for block grant, and then if we're awarded the others, that'll help offset some of the cost. It's not going to offset it all, but that's just the game, the nature of the game, I guess, the nature of the beast. So that's where those figures are. Previous grants, also NSP, which is the Neighborhood Stabilization Grant. That was back in 2008, I believe was the year that was awarded. And that just recently closed out. There was an extension or 2 on that grant. WSOS administered. We also administered, we shared the administration, which ours is primarily oversight and tracking of all of the payouts and drawdowns and invoices, making all the payments and all of that. And you can see the breakdown of how much regional planning received of that $1.2 or so million grant, and then how much WSOS received.
About 10% is kind of a,
yeah,
kind of.
Well, not for regional planning's portion. Of 1.2, 16,000 is 1%, or less.
Yeah, we're looking at the 2 together.
Right. And I don't know, because I wasn't involved in that application, that was prior to my being hired. I don't know what the maximum allowed was. I do know after talking with WSOS, depending on what they're looking at, but I know like for some of these programs, say CHIP for instance, they put the maximum amount for admin in there. And you can see I have 3 years for CHIP, 3 fiscal years, because CHIP is offered every 2 years. It's a 2-year grant period.
Yeah, I just have a question. That Neighborhood Stabilization Grant.
Yep.
Where would he? I guess what my concern is what's being done with it. I mean, what's the address? It's something that we can look at a before picture and after picture, or something so that we're getting our money value of it. This is
Yeah.
not to do with
No, I
regional
understand
planning,
that.
but, I mean, is this money being spent and is it truly being effective?
Yes, and.
Do you have before or after pictures
Um,
and something like that, or?
I don't in my files. I can get them from. I'm certain
I'd love to
WSOS
see
does.
that. I
They
mean,
had
$1.2 million bucks,
right.
is a lot of money, and
They had a couple of years. It was excuse me, the year I was hired, I believe. So it was, I believe, 2011. They had done a rehab project over in. Not sure if it was in Fostoria. Some of the money, they came to the commissioners. Do you remember this, Commissioner Wagner? They came to the commissioners and requested to use it not only in the Fostoria area, but also in, like, I think Fremont also. And that was approved by the Board of Commissioners to use some of that money in Fremont for
It was-
whatever the reasoning was. I'm not sure. I
Used for the
wasn't
same stuff as CHIP, kinda, isn't it?
similar.
To rehab private homes for low-income folks, tear down slum and blight areas.
but I'd love to see it's even like the ones that we're doing now.
Yep.
Picture a new regular now and a picture once the job's completed, so we can say, okay, ooh, we got some value out
Yeah.
of this. It really is making a difference. Same way with the, over to Fostoria, you know, I
Right.
guess in the future, just for,
Yes, and in fact, that's one of the new things that the state, at the training that I went to last fall,
Maybe a house here.
one of the
I
things
understand,
that
but
they
then you see a
recommended, they don't
blighted house,
require it, is
and
to
now
have
you see
those
it's
before
down
and
on
after
the vacant
pictures
land,
of the
got
projects
grass
when
and
they're
it's not an
being
eyesore
built.
anymore.
Right,
you
that'd be
know?
great.
But WSOS did have they had, all the commissioners received an invitation. I also received one. I was in the middle of a grant application, so I didn't get to go, but it was, I'm thinking it was over in Fremont. They did a neighborhood stabilization project, rehab, I think. I don't think it was construction. I'm not 100% sure on it. But it was 2 or 3 properties right in a row on, I'm not sure if it was, I'm not sure the street.
I
I'm
would
not
love
gonna-
to see that for
but
things
they
that
had-
I'm involved with.
They had a grand opening type of thing, or a,
Ribbon cutting or something?
yeah, ribbon cutting or something like that, that they invited all the commissioners to come to, and then my office to come to as well. And they had pictures of the homes on that invitation also. So I know that I can get that for you, and I would be happy to get you
I'd love to see
pictures
it.
of
Even
those,
for
so
the
that you can
projects
see them.
That we're doing now,
Yes.
then 2 years when it's completed, we can see before and after pictures, okay.
Yep.
Taxpayers got their money's worth here, or. you know.
Right. And so I will request that, and I'll bring those back over for you or
Thank
send
you.
them over. But what I was starting to say is that that's one of the more recent things that the state, at the last fall when I went to the training in November, they talked about the projects, and they're recommending, they're not requiring, but recommending that pictures be taken when you before and after pictures. When you apply for the grant, and I didn't bring last year's application with me, you have to include photographs typically. And I had those in last year's of the sidewalk, Bettsville.
Yeah,
It was
Bettsville
Bettsville,
sidewalk.
the year before, 2011. We didn't have any pictures for the 2012 money because it was the HVAC system.
Yeah.
Is that right? HVAC
Yes,
system.
yeah.
And so we do have photographs in the applications of the initial, the way it looks for the application purpose.
Not completed, no.
I am starting to take the
Okay.
completed pictures now because they've recommended, but they're not requiring it. So I'm thinking if they're recommending, they're moving to requirement. So that's one of the things that I am gonna start doing, and now that Bettsville project is complete, I plan to go over there and have the administrator or mayor take me around so I can take photos of those finished streets. But this is just the life cycle of grant. This is what we covered, what the state covered at their training that I went to, that we reference quite often, to be sure that we are complying with everything and that we're following all the rules, and that there isn't anything that can come back on the county. That's one of the fiduciary responsibilities that regional planning takes on in administering these grants, is insurance that, or assurance to you that we are complying with all of the rules, we're following all the regulations. and meeting the requirements so that you wouldn't have to return funds or have any findings for recovery in an audit or anything of that nature. And relating to the application itself, this is just the preliminary stuff that we have been working on in our office for this application for all 3 of these grants. We started working on it in February when we sent over the first resolution to do the first public hearing. And all of this, you're welcome to look through this stuff. I have to take it back with me because it's the grant stuff, or take it back or come back over and get it at least later. But this is all of the application. This talks about everything in all 3 of the applications. As you can see, I have all my notes, my little tabs and that. And we have to read all of this and make sure that we're meeting every requirement in all of this. So, you know, there's a lot of time involvement just to make sure that we're complying, you're complying. We don't want anything to come back on the county. We want to see the county succeed and progress. So one of the other things.
County paper.
Pardon me?
I think I want to sell the county paper.
You in the paper business?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are county grants, keep in mind. And we do save as many things on the computer as we can. And if you come and look at our files on our computers for one grant, they're just enormous. But we've been told, and I don't know how that's going to change in the future, but we have to right now have paper copies as well as electronic copies. And now when we file the grant applications, you have to send in one binder. Typically, the binder I send is just like this. It's not quite this thick. You've seen them when I've sent them over, and I'll have them tabbed, and then I'll have the please sign stuck on those pages you need to sign for the application. But we have to send one of those binders to the state along with electronic files. We have to email now this year. We have to include, well, we did last year also, a DVD copy of all of it. And another thing that we don't charge any fees for is the county grants that we help other county departments write when they come to us and request our help in writing any types of grants that they want to look at. And we do help them with it, and we don't get any administration from them for that. We've done a lot to help the sheriff's department and have collaborated a lot with them. And I receive, and I think some of you may receive also notifications when they have grant reports due or anything of that nature. It goes out to the sheriff, Diane Nutter, myself, Ron Green, Dave Majors, Brian Hesht. I mean, we all get them. And I communicate on a regular basis with them when I see that to make sure that if they need my help, first of all, I'm willing to help them. Diane has requested my help on occasion, and it's just a matter of sometimes just her talking to somebody else and getting feedback.
You're working on a pretty big grant for Patchworks House.
Yes, Patchworks House. Well, that last one was
It's
$399,000.
a couple-year deal, too.
Yep, and that'll be due, well, I think they could apply in another year for another one. But, so that's just some of the stuff we do that, I don't know how to express the amount of time that is involved in one of these, I guess. It's really involved. Some other things that I brought with me, just to give you a feel for, we are required to keep specific financials. And so this is one grant year, one fiscal year. This is the current, no, this ended in 12. This is the 09 chip. And we have to keep all of these financials. We have to hand enter everything. And then we have to cross-check and make sure that everything is accurate, that we've paid it out appropriately. We collaborate with WSOS and compare our files to theirs to make sure all the projects on our side equal the projects on their side, so we don't have any discrepancies in the way that any of us have applied the project funding. So that is our financial, a copy of one of the things of financials. And then one of the projects for block grant, this one was fiscal year 2010. And this one I chose because this grant is now closed out. 11 and 12 are still open, but coming to an end. And so, but this is just one project file. Break my necklace. That we have that, this is just one project, all the work that goes into one project. This is the bid packet and contract, and then this is all the other stuff, which has the prevailing wage rate. We also have to follow up with the labor, and make sure that all the labor is accurate and that there aren't any issues with the labor certificates. And so,
On those, when there's reporting back to them, once, if we've got the grant and it's going, that's not just at the end. There's probably
no.
something, is it
Yeah.
annually or quarterly or?
I don't know how the critical infrastructure and the NRG, the Neighborhood Revitalization Grant, will be. I'm assuming they'll be the same as all the others, and they're
Yeah.
typically quarterly for the block grant.
Gotcha.
Some of the other ones are semi-annual and annual, but typically it's quarterly that we have to report to the state. And usually it's the president of the commissioners that will do the reporting, or WSOS and us. If it's a CHIP program, we'll both I'll fill out mine, send it to them, they'll compare it to theirs, send it back to me, and then we get the signatures and get it sent off. But yeah, so it's a quarterly report for all of them. And I do know that if the county, and I hope that it happens that the county does get awarded for all of this money, I do believe the city is also applying for more than just their block grant, and it'd be awesome if they'd get funding as well. But
Totally separate though.
totally separate.
Different
This will
entities.
become yours, the county money will all be written in one grant agreement, and it will extend, which I think I mentioned this before, it will extend the time frame to 2 years from the typical one fiscal year for a block grant. And then the last thing that I wanted to be sure and mention is relating to the admin. If you approve that amount for admin, and then we determine we actually didn't need to spend that amount in admin, we can apply that to the projects. So it's not to say that that's gonna stay there and can't be moved. If we need to move some of that, we can. You have a percentage that you have to be within, but there really isn't a reason for that to be a concern, because it's a pretty significant amount, so, when you're thinking about that.
From a high level, so I'm trying to get my hands around it. Of the $714,000 for the application for the 3 grants. Okay. You're proposing that the admin fee be $67,000. The state would allow a $72,000 draw from that. Your actual cost you're proposing are gonna be $89,000.
Right.
Okay, that's the 3 highlight figures. The last thing that I just, trying to fast forward, how does this affect your budget going forward? Is there gonna be, are you gonna need additional revenues or additional income to be able to support this from the county in your department?
I don't believe
over the
so.
next 2 years?
Yeah, I don't believe so at this point. And when you asked me the other day the question also about, will we, need to contract out any of this, and that is the environmental reviews. That would be the piece that I would consider contracting out. And that number actually, that I put in there, the $12,000 for environmental reviews, may come in way under that. It depends on where we're at with everything in our office, how much I can get Bree involved in it. She's never done an environmental review, but I'm moving her into that because I think it's important that she be involved as well, because we're only a 2-person office, but she is very willing to learn. And if we can keep those in-house, we won't, that $12,000 amount is an amount that I got from somebody that I spoke to that we could propose a contract with. And that would be based on their figures. So in knowing that, if we would have to go that route, then that would be a valid number probably. But if we can keep it in-house, which I hope that we can, because I think it's good experience and it's rewarding once you get to the end of that and see how, you know, all of the, even though the environmental reviews are this thick, it's just something I think is good. And if we can cut costs there, we will.
Any other questions for
Yeah,
Jill?
no, I mean, I'm still, there's about a $20,000 disparity there to what you would get on grants at the $67,000 and $89,000. I mean, I keep coming back and, I mean, where's that disparity gonna be made up of?
Well, like I said, some of this funding,
Okay.
this proposed amount, if we can keep it all in-house and don't have to contract it out to somebody else, that cost is gonna be less.
Okay.
That is considering everything that I can think of possibly being a factor in this. And I think that's a little maybe on the high side, but I would rather have it be a high side estimate than too low and then have us really have a problem. I don't see that it would be an issue. I know that, you know, any state or federal funding that you get isn't always gonna cover all your costs, no matter what kind of grant it is. If you look down at the very last, next to last line on this sheet, the MOF, which is Moving Ohio Forward grant, some of these grants, when you apply for them, you can't charge admin. In this case, you're only allowed 5% on that total grant. And some of that admin has to pay for like your title searches, your asbestos inspections, some of that stuff that can't be charged as a project cost would go to admin. And on that $290,000, we're only able to charge $14,700 to the admin line of it, so.
And the difference that Fred's mentioned, it's about 22,400. That's really over 2 years.
Yes.
So it's gonna hit your budget, you know, at, you know, 11,000.
Really, I believe the
year.
directive of the commissioners here is first, how can we keep as much of this grant to the actual project, number one, and number two, how's it gonna affect your budgets that we have to fund? So, and both of those pull away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
The more money we can put towards the project is less funds for you.
Right.
Yeah, so
And that would be
we're
up to
trying to
my
get that
board
happy
to
medium.
determine where we would be and what their line would be on their admin, you know, their admin costs and what they would be willing to go with on that. I can't speak for where they want to stand on something like that. I would have to talk to them about it. But as far as based on the way we've done the administration in the past, I have made a faithful effort, as you can see, once I was hired, to try and reduce our admin costs as much as we can to keep that money within the county on those projects. And we're able to do that, and we're still doing okay with our budget in regional planning. So by reducing the block grant amount to $17,000, I reduced it $768 from the previous one. But if we can get the additional money in the other two set-asides, the $20,000 for the one and $30,000 for the other, I don't see that would create a budgeting issue on regional planning's part. And like I said before, and Commissioner Stacy mentioned, this would become a 2-year grant period. And we already started working on this in February of this year, and we haven't even submitted the application yet, so.
Any other questions from the board?
Can I
No.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Would, say it happens to come in higher, would you be able to submit an amendment or something to request additional? Because you said you're requesting the 67, but you could, allowable maybe up to 72. Would it be beneficial to ask for the full amount first and then not use it or put it towards the project? Or just
Yes.
do the estimate of what you need, and then if you say some reason it runs higher, you have to do the outsourcing for the environmental review, would you be able to do an amendment to ask for additional costs instead of, just to cover it, you know, I don't think the general fund would have to put any into it, we don't
Right.
normally do any
No.
of that, so I didn't know if that would be a consideration to ask for the amount and then like you said, whatever you don't
We
use
can
could
put
be
it
put
back.
towards the project.
The more we ask
Just
for,
a
the less
thought.
goes towards the project.
Initially,
Yeah.
but in the
Yeah.
end, if there's money still remaining,
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
apply it to those projects.
Or does the project, when they rate these to pick, which ones are gonna get funded,
The less.
does it look better if you're
I
not
see what
asking
you're
for so
saying.
much
No,
We
administrative?
can-
That doesn't matter,
That doesn't
because they
matter.
allow up to a certain
So
percentage
they-
for a reason.
So most people probably put it in the max.
Yeah, because they know, and they've told me at many of the trainings that I've been to, and I collaborate. I work with them on a regular basis and talk to them right now weekly, sometimes daily. But they stress that amount, they know, is not enough to cover the administrative costs. To ask for an amendment to increase admin later, no.
You wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't be able to.
Then you're better off to go in max now, as long as the unused portion can go back to the
Yes,
project,
yes,
which would be the 72.8.
right.
Well, the reason I think this is probably plenty is you got the salaries figured at 60, and, your salary's not all paid out of admin. Your salary and Bree's salary is paid out of regular funds from
Right.
regional planning, so
That's
I can't
not,
see spending $60,000 in salaries. I think that's,
over a 2-year time period, I know that fiscal year 2010, I calculated the admin amount that was spent in that grant for that entire period. And like I said on there, it was 19,000 just in salaries, Medicare PERS, we spent around 17, it was a little under that when you pull out the travel or training, and I think postage, because all that's admin too. So it was a little under 17,000 for that one grant year. This is a 2 grant year
Yeah,
and
good
two
point.
people working, so I figured on the high side, I think. I don't think it should be that amount.
Yeah.
But I don't know until we get there, because these are also 2 new programs, the additional set-aside competitive programs that the state has never had before. And when you ask them questions, a lot of the times they can't give you an answer because they don't know, and they tell you that.
Yeah.
So,
anything else? What do you need from us at this time then, for these two
just
competitive grants?
for your guidance on the administration, so that I can get the resolution put together so that you can approve the resolution next week at your meeting.
So you don't need a
No.
resolution next week,
Yes.
guidance. Is this acceptable to the board, what she has proposed?
Yeah, I would go for the max, so, as long as we can put it back. I mean, I was
Yeah.
not in favor of that, but now that any unused portion can be put back, I would vote to go towards the 72,800
Okay.
versus your 67,000. Because again, I don't want to have to come hit our budget next year, as long as we can give the money back
Yes,
for the projects.
Yes.
What's your thought on that?
I'm okay with that, long as it doesn't affect the ranking of the application, which you said it doesn't, because they set the standard, or they
Yes.
set the maximum. I guess, and like I said, with the vote of confidence that we aren't gonna need that much, and we'll be able to put that into the project
right.
and not have to return it to them.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, then let's do it that way. Let's apply for the maximum, and we can pass the resolution that way then.
Okay. I will get that ready and have that over for you next week. I do have one more thing, and this is unrelated to block grant.
Okay.
It's something that came up yesterday afternoon, when I talked about helping other county departments with their grants. Sheriff's Department was awarded a $9,000 grant, of that $9,000, they're contributing $900, so it's an $8,100 grant for tasers. That grant agreement actually needs signed, and we already have the legislation in place, so if I can get the president's signature, and then the sheriff needs to sign, and he's gonna come and see
Okay.
us today to
Sure,
sign it.
sure. As long as it doesn't tase me with it.
Does that mean
Can't
that
guarantee anything.
Every patrol car will have a taser, is that?
I don't believe
that's
so.
what
I think what they proposed was, on the original application, was $20,000. They received the $9,000, which they have to contribute $8,100. So one taser cost approximate $900. So they're gonna get maybe about 8 or 9 of these,
Okay.
probably with
Great.
that funding.
Great.
Be tased and shot.
Yeah, I suppose, if I had to choose.
Do you want me to leave any of this stuff here for you to review?
No, I don't think so.
we'll leave it in your capable
Okay,
hands.
and again, please come over if you want to see an entire grant file. I'd be happy to show it to you.
Well, thank you for coming in and filling us in and taking your time to do that.
It has to be frustrating trying to train the newbies, doesn't it?
Hey, it's all about education, and I like to educate.
All right, we are a little bit past our bid opening time, and this is issue 1 bid opening, so this is an important, thank you. Thank you folks for bidding, we appreciate it.
Do you have to sign?
Yeah. We have a sign-in sheet to pass around.
Sure, I don't have one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. This is for the 2013 Seneca County Township Road Programs at issue 1. The engineer's estimate. Yes. Engineer's estimate is $1,308,318.37. 1308318.37. This bid is from Gherkin Paving Incorporated out of Napoleon, Ohio. The total bid amount, $1,346,792.69. 1346792.69. Second bid is M&B Asphalt out of Tiffin, Ohio. Total bid amount for this project, $1,220,076.06. 1220076.06. Those are the only two I have.
Okay, again, thank you both for bidding, we appreciate that very much, and we will refer these to the county engineer, who will give us a recommendation at a future date.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Keep it rack straight, or haven't you seen them?
Yeah, trying to.
Okay.
It's tough though.
Good.
I'll be good, Jeff.
Great, great, good to see you.
Thank you.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Okay, now we're back to old business. Mrs. Wilson, did you have anything else in old business?
I guess just got an email yesterday from Mr. DeVoli. Good news is that the study was approved for the collaborative efforts with the city and the county for the Justice Center or potential new county-city building.
Okay.
So that this study, they got the $100,000 for a study, so.
Yeah, so now we'll have to get together and decide just how we're going to use that. We're gonna hire a consultant to do the study, or what we're gonna do, so.
Yeah.
I expect a future meeting on
Yep.
that.
That's good news.
With the COG, and it wouldn't be our
Yeah.
decision, it'd be the COG's decision.
I think that's all the old I had.
Okay, Nicole, do you have any more business, Commissioner Hiller?
No, other than, I mean, when do we need to start thinking about setting some funds aside? Like last year, the previous commissioners did, they said 400,000 be aside. When do we need to?
We can do that
When is
anytime
the
we wish.
appropriate time to start doing that?
Is it advisable to wait until we get through another quarter? I mean, what's
Whatever.
history?
We did, well, we only did it 1 year, and we did that like in March, I think.
Oh,
I think we usually waited till the end of March when they closed the
close the
close all the purchase orders from the previous year, so the cash would be available, so.
So this would be the time frame. We
This could be a
we
good-
consider
My
that.
preference is to wait until after half the year's down. Sometime in July, whenever they close that, is then you kind of, I don't, from a business perspective, I always hold back on spending until you get half the year down, and then you can breathe a little bit and kind of know where you are. And
Right.
I would think that
That's-
would be approved.
That's okay with me.
Yeah.
It won't,
Yeah.
it won't make any difference, you know, if we wait a few more months. that's okay.
No,
Okay, we'll keep that on our radar then. Do you have any old business?
no, I do not.
One thing I want to touch on quick is the old youth center. We talked about tearing that down. We were waiting until after the grant process because we talked about maybe applying for the grant for that, which we didn't do. So the process now to tear that down would be to solicit some proposals
Yes.
from various people?
Actually, Marcus Zimmerman has offered to do a, like specs for it for
Okay,
me.
good, good.
So he's working on those. He was
Okay.
working on those for the grant, and since we already had a couple projects going into that grant, I didn't make him rush to get it done.
Right,
So there will be some asbestos abatement. He had went through the building, so we know we're gonna have to have just some asbestos abatement done first, so.
Okay.
But Mark's working on those numbers, and
So he'll come up with some guidelines or
Preliminary.
specs, and then we can send those out to Perspective. If it's under a certain amount, we don't actually
yeah,
have
we
to
don't have to
bid it.
bid,
We can
just to
get
quote.
proposals.
Yeah,
So,
Let me ask you, before we tear it down, I mean, is there something that we can use as like a controlled burn, or the sheriff's department can use it as a training exercise and?
yeah. Sheriff was
Yeah, I mean-
actually, had asked about that, potentially using it for, a live shooter, or I'm not quite sure how he worded it, but basically, because of the situation that happened, with the school, they wanted to do some practicing with live shooter, and he had asked about the youth center building at one of the communications meetings, and he was gonna look into that further.
I mean, do we need the land right now? Is there any, there's no cost, we got all the electricity and the heat's turned off, so, I mean, unless, it's really not an eyesore there, but I would think that somebody could use it, different departments could use it for various training purposes, so to leave it there may not be a bad way, I mean,
The only thing still on, we have to leave the sub pump on because the basement will flood. And even though we're potentially gonna tear it down, it was recommended that we leave that on.
yeah.
So-
The maintenance wants the little shed out back.
Yep.
and
well,
we
yeah, I
had
mean,
told
to
them they could
piecemeal
use that.
things off, but, I mean, even if it's $1,000 to tear it down, if it has some value from a training purpose,
Well, I think
it's
we,
not really an eyesore.
we told the sheriff at that time he could use it.
Yeah.
Well, that was been months ago, and
Yeah.
I think that still stands, but we can't just wait for people who might want to use it at some future. I mean, if somebody expresses an interest and said, yeah, September we're gonna do something, or
Oh, yeah.
August we're gonna do something, I'm fine with that, but just wait indefinitely doesn't seem,
Yeah, I guess I put it out there
Okay.
and touch base with him again if he thinks he might need it, and if he's not gonna even know until September, that's fine.
I
If he
mean,
thinks it's a
yeah.
possibility, I'm for that, but.
if there's a yeah, I'm fine if there's a possibility, but I don't want
Because
it
it
to
doesn't
just
have to
drag on.
sit out, I guess we don't have to keep it on the insurance, or we're required to keep it on the insurance because of our employees entering the building.
Yeah,
and-
safe.
So there
safety
is a
reason.
cost to let it sit there.
It would have to still be covered minimally under our
It's
insurance.
probably huge, but I imagine there's just.
I guess that question would be better answered by the various fire departments and the sheriff and police department. I mean, use it as training. If they see no value to it ever,
Yeah.
then absolutely. If it has no value, tear it down, but if it's got some value down the road, I mean, it's not in the middle of town that it's an eyesore. But if it's, I mean, that's where I would suggest.
How does this sound? If we send an email or some sort of communication to these various places and say, if you're interested in using it, please let us know. If not, we're gonna proceed with demolition, and
Yeah.
give them some sort of time frame.
Yeah,
Couple
I don't
weeks,
care if they,
maybe.
yeah, I don't care if they shoot it up first. I mean, that's fine with me, or burn it, or whatever they wanna do. But I do wanna continue moving down that direction of not just collecting old buildings.
Versus just having an old building there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it has no value, absolutely, and I'm fine with that.
And maintenance does want to keep the garage. I think we talked about that at one
Right.
meeting.
Yeah,
They've
we did.
changed the electric around, so they got that separate now from the other Okay, very good. We got a little time anyway, because Mark doesn't have the specs yet.
Right.
And then you'll talk to various people
Yeah.
who may be interested in turning it.
Yep.
Okay. Any more old from anybody? Okay, new business then.
I have a resolution for a supplement to the permanent appropriation for the EMA Fund 102, requesting $8,000 into equipment. Dan Stahl had come and asked me about purchasing a Dodge Caravan, or actually just a Caravan, and he currently has a 2000 Dodge Dakota that used to be our dog warden's truck. He has a 1997 that he shares with the EMS, Dodge Caravan, and I think a 1999 GMC pickup truck that he drives every day is the GMC pickup truck. It's got the bigger motor in it. It uses a lot of gas. So he said he had not excess money. He would like to do the 3-year program, as the sheriff did, paying for that Explorer out of his FOJ money. Dan would like to do the 3-year. It's called a lease program, but it's a purchase, is a loan, 3-year loan. And to get a new Dodge Caravan for that office, he would be keeping the 99 for the hazmat trailers, the bigger trailers out there, to still haul, but it would save money on fuel. They would be eliminating the 1997 van once they got all the radio equipment out of it and moved into the new one, and also they're looking to get rid of the 2000 Dodge Dakota. So I told him to go ahead and get prices on this, and that's what he's requesting to do. So, and then it's under the state term pricing, and I think the next resolution, I think it was Coppice had did the bid under the state purchasing bid amount, so that's what that is. That's for.
There's a state purchasing amount, and if a local dealer can beat that by $1, then they can.
We can buy it locally
We can buy
without
it
having to
locally.
go through the bidding. So the second resolution, I have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2013 Dodge Caravan through State Cooperative Purchasing Program, local vendor in lieu of bidding on behalf of the Seneca County Emergency Management Agency. I have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2013 Ford F-150 through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperating Purchasing Program from local vendor in lieu of bidding on behalf of the Seneca County Engineer. He pays for his in one lump sum. And I have a resolution authorizing the President of the Board to sign the FY 2014-15 DYS subsidy reclaim grant application and all related documents on behalf of the Seneca County Board of Commissioners and the Seneca County Juvenile Court. I do have an additional resolution that I sent, setting a time, date, and place for the Seneca County Board of Commissioners to hold a public hearing for the approval of the issuance of economic development improvement and refunding revenue bonds. This will be set for Tuesday, June 25th at 10 a.m. at the Commissioner's office. That board day is actually our board day that's going to be in Attica at 7:30. Being this was a public hearing, they had asked if we could do it at our local regular setting. So we set it for 10 o'clock here. So we'll just do the public hearing here regarding these bonds. And then we will still have our regular session at Attica at 7:30 that night. So we won't do any regular business at 10 o'clock. We will just be doing this public hearing. And basically, Heidelberg is asking to use some of our purchasing power through, not purchasing power, our bonding to refinance their current debt for tax exempt.
I've never quite understood how that worked, but it doesn't cost the county anything. It doesn't go against our borrowing amount. We're not paying interest on it or anything, but they need our okay so they can refinance and get the tax exempt bonds.
Yep.
And we run all that through John Larson at Squire Sanders and Dempsey, who's our bond counsel, and as long as he says, yeah, it meets A, B, C, and D, we just do it. We've done it for Good Shepherd Home, we've done it for Flat Rock Children's Center,
Mercy.
Mercy Hospital, other places. And I do think it's important that we have all of our business then at Attica that evening.
Yes.
So we've got something to do over
Yep.
there rather than,
Yep, the only thing we'll do here that morning, it'll kind of be just a special session for the hearing alone. We'll be here, all of our regular stuff will be in Attica.
is that all the,
Yep, that's all the new business I have.
is there a motion?
I'll move to.
Seconded.
Okay, discussion on any of those items? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zoll,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Commissioner Wetton.
Yes. Okay, anything else?
I did see on the calendar, I think, Mark Troutman had spoke with Tanya yesterday, asking for a few minutes, executive session to discuss the litigation for the transfer title fees. So-
County litigation.
Yes.
They're the attorneys that work with the county, with Corsa,
Yep,
and represent county in some of those legal matters. We can talk about that in executive session. so.
and so.
And they want us to go to executive, call them.
Yep.
They're not coming in.
Right, correct.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
assuming it's
well-
just an update.
Any particular hour we were supposed to call them? Just whenever we got done?
She had it on the calendar at 10:30, but
Okay. Okay.
I didn't have it on my agenda, so I kind of forgot until just, I
Okay.
wrote a note,
Okay.
reminded me, so hopefully it'll just take a few minutes and, but we can do,
Okay.
we're already a little bit late, so we can do
That's-
questions and comments if you.
Yeah, anybody have any public comment? Okay. Or anything else from the board? All right, is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, we are in, this roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zoller,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Commissioner Wetton.
Yes, we're in executive session at 10:51. Thank you for coming, I hope it was entertaining.